Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street is a masterpiece that blends horror, tragedy, and music in a way no other film has. It's visually stunning, emotionally devastating, and brutally unforgettable. But what exactly makes this movie so good? When you think of Tim Burton, you think of dark, twisted, Gothic stories like Edward Scissorhands, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and Corpse Bride. So, when he decided to adapt Sweeney Todd, a musical about a vengeful barber who slits throats and turns victims into meat pies, it was a match made in cinematic heaven. The original Sweeney Todd was a Broadway sensation, composed by the legendary Stephen Sondheim. His complex music and tragic storytelling set it apart from typical musicals. Burton, a lifelong fan of Sondheim, had wanted to adapt Sweeney Todd for years. And when he finally got the chance, he didn't hold back. Instead of making it a traditional stage-to-film adaptation, Burton crafted a Gothic horror opera, darker, bloodier, and visually richer than anything seen before in the musical genre. The result was a film that feels like a Tim Burton classic and a faithful adaptation of Sondheim's vision. Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd was a bold choice. Before this, Depp had never starred in a musical. In fact, he had no professional singing experience at all. But here's where it gets interesting. Depp personally recorded demo tracks and sent them to Tim Burton, convincing him that he could handle the role. His singing wasn't classically trained, but that actually worked in his favor. Unlike a polished Broadway tenor, Depp's raw, whispery voice made Sweeney feel more like a real person, broken, haunted, and consumed by rage. Critics were skeptical at first, but when the movie was released, Depp's performance was universally praised. He even earned an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, proving that his portrayal of Sweeney Todd wasn't just good, it was legendary. His performance of Epiphany alone is a masterclass in acting. Rage, sorrow, and madness, all wrapped into one chilling song. One of the first things you notice about Sweeney Todd is its stunning visual style. The movie is almost monochromatic, as washed-out grays, blacks, and blues dominate the screen. This makes the red blood stand out in an even more horrifying way. The cinematography gives the film a dreamlike, eerie quality, almost like a ghost story brought to life. Burton purposefully desaturated the film's colors to match the grim themes. It looks almost like an old Victorian daguerreotype, a fitting choice for a story set in 19th century London. Every great protagonist needs a great partner, and Helena Bonham Carter as Mrs. Lovett was perfectly cast. Unlike the stage versions where Mrs. Lovett is often played as loud and comedic, Carter's version is quieter, more tragic, and subtly manipulative. Her chemistry with Depp is incredible. You can tell she's deeply in love with Sweeney, but she also has her own selfish motives. Her performance of a little priest is one of the film's best moments, darkly funny, chilling, and surprisingly catchy. To prepare for the role, Helena took 6 months of singing lessons. She even learned how to bake pies to make her performance more authentic. A musical lives or dies by its score, and Sweeney Todd has one of the greatest scores ever written. Stephen Sondheim's music is complex, operatic, and deeply emotional. Unlike most musicals, there are very few spoken lines. The dialogue is sung almost entirely. The film wisely trims down the original Broadway version, cutting about an hour of music to keep the pacing tight. Sondheim himself praised the film, saying that it stayed true to his vision while bringing a fresh cinematic perspective. That's huge coming from a Broadway legend. At its core, Sweeney Todd is a story about revenge and how it consumes the soul. Sweeney is a man who has lost everything: his wife, his daughter, his identity. But his desire for vengeance turns him into something even worse than his enemies. By the time he gets his revenge, he's already lost everything. His thirst for blood blinds him to the truth. His wife was alive all along. Also, Mrs. Lovett's role in this tragedy is just as dark. She loves Sweeney, but her selfishness leads to deception, murder, and ultimately her own downfall. It's Shakespearean in its tragedy, except instead of swords and daggers, we have razors and meat pies. A film is only as strong as its supporting cast, and Sweeney Todd delivers some incredible performances. Alan Rickman's Judge Turpin is one of the most despicable villains in cinema. His deep, sinister voice makes every line feel oppressive. What makes him terrifying was that he truly believes he's right. His evil is not over the top. He sees himself as a righteous man, which makes him even scarier. Timothy Spall plays the Beadle with a mix of arrogance and sleaziness. He's not as powerful as Turpin, but he enjoys his role as the judge's enforcer. His fate was one of the most satisfying deaths in the film. Cohen, known for comedic roles, shocked audiences with his performance as the flamboyant, fraudulent Barber. His exaggerated Italian accent is hilarious, but his sudden shift to menace when he tries to blackmail Sweeney is chilling. His death is one of the first major turning points in the film, proving that Sweeney has fully embraced his dark path. Even the smaller roles, like Jane Weisner as Johanna and Jamie Campbell Bower as Anthony, add to the film's depth, showing how innocence is constantly at risk in this corrupt world. Most musicals soften their stories when adapted to film. Sweeney Todd does the opposite. It leans into its darkness. Deep red blood splatters across the screen in a theatrical, almost poetic way. Tim Burton purposely made the blood look unrealistically red to match the film's gothic, nightmarish tone. And the sound design makes every kill feel disturbingly real. The gurgling, the slicing, the dull thud of bodies dropping into the basement. It's a horror film disguised as a musical. Then that's what makes it unforgettable. The final act of Sweeney Todd is nothing short of Shakespearean tragedy at its finest. Throughout the film, Sweeney believes his wife Lucy was dead, but she was alive all along. When Sweeney kills her, thinking she's just a mad woman, it's the ultimate moment of tragic irony. Mrs. Lovett's deception is revealed in the end, as she knew Lucy was alive and kept it a secret. Sweeney's reaction was a chilling, almost tender waltz with her before throwing her into the oven. It's one of the most poetic, horrifying villain deaths in film history. Tobias, the young boy Mrs. Lovett took in, becomes the final executioner. The film ends with a haunting, silent image. Sweeney cradling Lucy's body, blood pouring from his throat. There's no grand redemption arc, no happy ending, just the ultimate cost of vengeance. What do you think? Is Sweeney Todd Tim Burton's best film? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible movies. Thanks for watching, and remember, never trust a barber with a grudge.